bells of Blackmere had not rung in 30 years. No one touched them. No one climbed the cathedral tower where they hung above the dead city, rusted by rain and wrapped in crows. The elders said the bells were cursed, that the last time they rang, the river turned black and children were born without shadows. Still, every winter the sound returned, not from human hands, but from something above the clouds. Edric had heard the stories since childhood. Every village around the Hollow Lands feared Blackmere. Travellers avoided the road. Hunters refused to enter the forest surrounding the city walls. Yet famine had reached his village, and fear mattered less when stomachs were empty. So at 19 years old, carrying only a stolen sword and a dying lantern, Edric crossed the dead bridge into Blackmere. The city waited in silence. No wind, no animals, no footsteps except his own. Buildings leaned like corpses frozen mid-collapse. Statues stared down with broken faces. Strange symbols were carved into every door, painted with something dark brown that looked too old to still be wet. As night fell, Edric found the cathedral. It rose from the centre of the city like a mountain of bones. Black towers pierced the fog above. Hundreds of stone angels covered its walls, but every angel had its eyes scratched out. Then the bells rang, one deep strike. The sound shook the streets beneath his feet. Another and another. The lantern in Edric's hand flickered violently. Somewhere in the darkness he heard movement, not one thing, thousands. He turned slowly. Figures stood at the ends of the streets. People, or what used to be people. Their skin hung grey from their bones, their mouths stretched impossibly wide, and none of them had eyes. The Hollowed. Edric ran. The creatures rushed after him with twitching movement, slamming against walls and crawling over each other like starving insects. Their screams echoed through the city as he forced open the cathedral doors and threw himself inside. Silence returned instantly. The doors slammed shut on their own. Inside the cathedral, candles burned despite the emptiness. Long red carpets led toward a massive throne beneath shattered stained glass windows. And sitting on the throne was a woman in silver armor. She looked alive. Too alive. Her pale eyes followed Edric carefully. "You heard the bells," she whispered. Edric raised his sword. "Who are you?" The woman smiled faintly. "I was the queen of this city before the sky opened." Above them, thunder groaned. The stained glass windows trembled. Edric noticed something horrifying then. The shadows in the cathedral moved differently than they should. They crawled, slowly twisting across the floor like living creatures. "What happened here?" he asked. The queen stood. "When men searched for immortality, they prayed to the wrong god. The candles dimmed. The thing above the clouds answered. Suddenly the cathedral shook violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. A sound echoed from the sky outside. Not thunder, breathing. Something enormous moved above Blackmere. Edric stepped backward. The queen approached him calmly. "For 30 years," she said, "it has slept over this city, feeding on memory, feeding on fear." The shadows around her feet curled like snakes. And tonight, it wakes hungry. The bells rang again, this time louder, deeper. Edric covered his ears as screams erupted outside the cathedral. Through the windows he saw the Hollowed kneeling in the streets, facing the sky. Then the clouds split open. A giant eye appeared above the city. Not human, not animal. An eye larger than the cathedral itself, glowing pale white through the storm clouds. It looked down at Blackmere, and everything stopped. Every sound, every movement, even Edric's heartbeat felt frozen. Then the eye blinked. The Queen dropped to her knees instantly. "It sees you," she whispered. The cathedral doors burst open. The Hollowed flooded inside, hundreds of them. Edric swung his sword wildly as they rushed forward, but more kept coming, screaming, crawling, reaching with skeletal hands. The Queen remained kneeling, almost praying. "The city needs a soul," she said softly. One Hollowed seized Edric's arm. Another grabbed his throat. The eye above the clouds widened. The bells screamed louder than ever before, and suddenly Edric understood the truth. The monster above the city was not guarding Blackmere. It was farming it. Every 30 years, the bells called someone desperate enough to enter the city. Someone alive, someone afraid, a new soul to feed the thing in the sky. The Queen looked up at him with tears in her pale eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. Darkness swallowed the cathedral. The last thing Edric heard was the sound of the bells finally stopping, and far above the clouds, something smiling. When Edric opened his eyes again, he was no longer inside the cathedral. He stood alone in a field of black water beneath a colourless sky. The surface beneath his feet rippled softly, yet he did not sink. Endless dead trees stretched across the horizon, their branches twisted into shapes that resembled screaming hands. Above them hung the giant eye, unmoving, staring directly at him. He reached for his sword, but it was gone. Even his reflection beneath the water looked wrong. It moved half a second slower than he did, then it smiled before he did. Edric stumbled backward. The reflection continued staring upward with that unnatural grin. "Where am I?" he shouted. The sky answered with whispers. Thousands of voices layered over one another. Some cried, some laughed, some begged for death. "Below the city," a familiar voice said behind him. Edric turned sharply. The Silver Queen stood there once more, though now her armor was cracked and stained black around the chest like burned metal. Without the cathedral candles, she looked older, exhausted, human. "You're dead?" Edric asked. "Not yet," she replied quietly. "Neither are you." The Queen walked across the black water, leaving ripples of pale light behind her feet. "This is where it keeps the souls it feeds upon." Edric looked around again. Shapes moved beneath the water now. Human shapes, hundreds of them drifting in darkness under the surface like drowned corpses. Some opened their mouths silently as they passed below him. The Hollowed? Only their bodies remain above. Their minds rot here forever. Edric felt cold terror spread through his chest. "Then we need to escape." The Queen stopped walking. "There is no escape from Blackmere." The giant eye above them blinked slowly. The whispers instantly grew louder. Edric grabbed his head in pain as memories flooded his mind. Villages burning, mountains split apart, oceans turning red beneath black storms. A creature descending from the sky long before Blackmere existed. "What is that thing?" he gasped. The Queen looked upward with hatred in her eyes. Its true name was erased centuries ago. The old kingdoms called it the Watcher Beyond Heaven. The water beneath them trembled violently. Something massive moved underneath. Edric saw an enormous shape swimming below the drowned souls, far larger than any whale, far larger than the cathedral itself. "It came from somewhere beyond the stars," the Queen continued, and wherever humans worshipped it, entire cities vanished. Suddenly a pale hand burst from the water beside Edric, then another. Dozens of drowned figures began crawling upward from beneath the surface. Their faces were stretched and eyeless like the hollowed above, but their skin dripped black liquid endlessly. Edric backed away as they surrounded him slowly. "Why are they coming after us?" he shouted. The Queen's expression darkened. "Because it knows I've betrayed it." The drowned souls lunged forward all at once. Edric barely avoided their grasp as he ran across the water. The creatures moved unnaturally fast, dragging themselves forward with snapping limbs and broken necks. One seized Edric's ankle. Its mouth opened impossibly wide. Inside its throat was only darkness, no tongue, no teeth, just endless black. Edric kicked free and kept running until suddenly the Queen raised her hand. The water exploded upward around them in towering waves of shadow. The drowned creatures screamed as black spears pierced through their bodies and dragged them back beneath the surface. Silence returned. Edric stared at her in shock. "You're connected to it." The Queen lowered her hand slowly. "For 30 years I served as its vessel." "Why?" Her face twisted painfully. "Because I loved my people." The sky darkened further, the eye above them narrowed. "When famine destroyed Blackmere," she whispered, "I prayed for salvation." More memories flooded Edric's mind. He saw the Queen kneeling inside the cathedral decades earlier, while starving citizens filled the streets outside. Then the sky opening above the city like tearing flesh. A voice descending from the heavens, a promise. No more hunger, no more death, only devotion. At first it kept its promise, the Queen said. The crops returned, the rivers filled, disease vanished. Her voice broke. Then people stopped dying naturally. Edric felt dread settle into his stomach. What happened to them? Their souls stayed trapped inside their bodies. The black water around them began bubbling violently now. The massive shape beneath the surface was rising. Every year they changed more, their minds disappeared, their bodies hollowed. The Queen looked directly at Edric, and eventually the city belonged to it. A colossal roar erupted beneath the water. The surface split apart. Something enormous began emerging from below. Edric saw countless human arms fused together into a mountain of flesh and darkness.